and we talk about don't mess it up doesn't mean make the exact same thing. And that was, part of why we came up with Mrs. Cocoa. It felt, it felt maybe more honest to have a real social worker there and not Cobra Bubbles.
Hemos capturado a un peligroso experimento. ¿En dónde está?
Logró escapar.
Trata de encontrar las naves patrulla.
Él tiene la roja.
Hello guys, I'm Uriel Linares from Sensacine. It's a pleasure having this conversation with you. How are you?
Great. We're great. Thanks so much. Good to meet you.
Thank you. Well, first of all, Lilo Stitch is one of the most beloved Disney stories in the world. Different generations know the dialogues and scenes of the animated movie by heart. I want to start by asking, what are the requirements for an animated movie to get its live-action version?
Well, I mean, I don't know that there's a set requirement, although it's funny, this one actually sort of did begin. I was finishing up making the live-action version of Aladdin for Disney and sort of starting to talk to Disney about, other titles, we loved, and this was one of those movies that just was so unique and so distinctly weird, and you sort of felt like it was also set in a sort of present-day, grounded, human characters. It sort of felt like it was almost prime for live action, and then at the same time, it just felt like there was this sort of nostalgia thing that was happening 2 decades later where you're starting to see Stitch stuffies or Stitch backpacks everywhere. And you're like, there's a whole generation. I would actually, I have 2 children. I would actually talk to kids. I'm like, oh, you're a huge Stitch fan. They'd be like, yeah, I love Stitch. Oh, you love the movie? Like, I've never seen it. And you sort of realize like people love this character. It was sort of coming back into the world, but not this new generation didn't necessarily know the movie as well as we all did. So I think it was sort of a series of all of these things, but then ultimately really comes down to like, well, who's gonna tell this story? And we started looking for a director, and that was when we had a chance to see Marcel the Shell early, and we're just so blown away by the heart and the humor and the sort of live action environment, but this animated character that had such a distinct personality. And that was when we sort of realized this would be the perfect director for us. And then it just so happened that Dean's favorite movie of all time, animated movie, was Lilo and Stitch. So it was just sort of this kismet thing that was coming together that it just felt like this was the right time to do it.
And talk about that, Dean. Just this week, I saw the movie, and I must tell you that the work on Stitch animation is remarkable. I could feel Stitch joy, even the madness and sadness. What was the biggest challenge to create his live action version? Please tell me.
It was something that I come from animation a bit, so it was something I was really passionate about. I think a mistake that sometimes live action adaptations make is that they think the job is done once the lighting looks perfect and he looks perfectly integrated, but the truth is that's only half the job. You also need to make sure that in the process that you haven't stripped away all of the charisma and cuteness and expressiveness that comes a little more easily in a traditional animated film. And so that was something we worked on a lot. We tried to, I think in terms of the design, we tried to really prioritize maintaining the shape language and allowing for that expressiveness to come through, not making him look too much like an animal that could exist in the real world or already does exist.
And speaking of fans' expectations, this version chooses to present new scenes, new dialogues, and situations in the life of these beloved characters. What led you guys to make the decision not to recreate the animated film, because many scenes, phrases, and even characters do not appear in this new film?
No, I think when you take on these projects, I think you have this message that you sort of hear from everyone on the internet, which is don't mess it up. And we talk about don't mess it up doesn't mean make the exact same thing. And if you actually do, and you just try to make a shot-for-shot remake, fans are going to be equally disappointed. And then there's so many ways to kind of take the story in new directions and sort of mine even more emotional depth. And when you have human characters, it is just a different experience. When you see a social worker talking to a human actor about maybe separating 2 sisters, like there's just a bit of a gut punch, and that was, part of why we came up with Mrs. Cocoa. It felt, it felt maybe more honest to have a real social worker there and not Cobra Bubbles in that scene like it would have been in the animated movie. So, there's just so many of those along the way that start to kind of enrich and deepen the story and hopefully give audiences something new.
Well, guys, sadly my time is up, but I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you very much.
Sam, thank you.
Thank you.
No. Voy a contar hasta 3, Stitch. 1.